Hello and welcome to the Glassworks Music Podcast, episode 3. This is the Grime edition. In the studio with me today are Anthony Pace, Joseph Himbury, and Charlie Thorogood again. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yourself, Ben?
Yeah, I'm good. And so the way this episode is going to go, we're going to introduce the grime genre to the people listening. Sure. Then we're going to interview you guys. Then we're going to talk about the differences between rap and recently, quite sadly, Lil Peep passed away.
Yeah, so sad. He was such a talented man.
He was a very talented artist.
I honestly I don't know who that is.
Oh, that's
no idea who.
Well, I mean,
Lil Peep is.
He was. I didn't know very much about him when he
was mainly,
when he passed away. I didn't know too much about him, but after that, I gave him a little listen, and some of his music, he was actually very talented.
Was his middle name Bo by any chance?
Oh my word.
Well,
he did call himself Bo Peep in many of his songs.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go over to you, Charlie, for the music festivals, which was delayed last week, but you're going to focus on Glastonbury today. We've got a tab open on the computer in front of us. And then finally, we're going to review some grime songs and just have a bit of fun with it.
Sure.
So, I'm going to hand you guys over to Anthony and Joe now.
Sure.
To just tell us a bit about the grime genre.
Of course. So, from the beginning.
Yeah. I think grime sort of originated in London. It was I think it's mainly based around garage music, which obviously was more in the 80s, sort of 90s.
With artists
so I think
like
it was
Artful Dodger.
Yeah. I think what it was that obviously you had the hip hop scene in America.
Yeah.
And I think you still had hip hop artists in the UK, but I think they wanted to be different and stand out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they found these garage beats and they would rap over them in raves and stuff, and undercover like sort of parties and stuff. But yeah, I think probably originated. I think it really came through 2003, 2004 when you had guys like Dizzy Rascal, Wiley, Tiny Temper.
I mean, those you mentioned Dizzy Rascal there. He really opened the Adam said a few episodes ago that he opened the gateway to British rap.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was, in a sense, the first to do grime.
No,
but I'd say he's definitely the person who made it big and a bit more commercial in terms of songs. Like, well, what Dizzy Rascal songs do you know of? Like early ones?
Bonkers.
Yeah, Bonkers. Exactly.
He did one with Chrome and Calvin Harris Dance with Me.
Exactly.
Probably his most famous.
He's very good at making commercial music. A bit like, so like nowadays, I think grime wouldn't be where it was for a certain man known as Stormzy. Because of what he did, and he made grime a very commercial kind of thing, and made it sound a lot better to a normal audience, rather than this very specific London audience. You have people who don't know what grime is, but they know who Stormzy is.
Well, Stormzy is a very new artist. He probably came about last year, 2015 sort of time.
You say this, right? Stormzy's been grinding for years. He started. I personally remember listening to Stormzy when I first started listening to grime, and that was like 2014.
Yeah,
and he's been rapping a long time before that. He started when he was 15. He's now like 23 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. So basically you knew him before he was popular.
Essentially, he still had views and stuff, but before, I'm pretty sure you all know his single Shut Up quite well. That wasn't... I remember watching that when it had 1 million views or so. It now has 60 million views.
And it's gone viral then.
Yeah, and the fact is, that's not even a song. That's just a normal park freestyle by a grime artist, and everyone's listened to it. And it's like, if you told people who listen to grime, or even grime artists 10 years ago, videos would be on YouTube getting 60 million views, I think they'd laugh at you and be like, that's not going to happen.
Grime, for me, is a very... I don't know much about it. I know more about rap, but there are links there, and a bit later on in the podcast we're going to talk about the differences.
Yeah.
Joe, what's your take on grime in the current scene? Music scene?
To be honest, I think it could have used a better name, because grime doesn't really sound that intriguing of a name. It sounds dirty in a way, but with artists, of course, like Dizzy Rascal and Wiley, they sort of turned it into, like, shaped it into something popular, something, and making music that sort of captures the dirtiness and sort of rebellious vibes of the name.
I think we're going to review some grime songs at the my laptop. Near the end of the podcast.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm getting to understand more about if you compare rap. I mean, we're going to go over the differences later, but
Yeah.
Anthony, you wanted to.
I know I was going to say about how Joe said the name of it, grime is dirt. But I think from where the background these people come from, they're in London living in like places
Not the
which aren't
best
great conditions.
Yeah.
Grime, and if you listen to it, as we are going to later, it's very aggressive, and these people are very,
Yeah.
outspoken. They're very got that attitude, and they're like, yeah, I'm the best. They got that kind of
Stubborn,
that
cocky.
ego. Yeah, and I think grime, as we know it as dirt, is a very good way to explain it because that's the kind of music it is.
Exactly.
They're very aggressive, and
So I think that covers the introduction to the grime genre. Hopefully you listening know a bit more about that. We're going to interview you guys now. I've got 5 questions here, similar to the questions I asked Mr. Field last week.
Sure.
So as there's two of you today,
Sure.
would you prefer if I asked you individually or if you just both give the answer?
If you go individually, I think it'd be.
Individually, yeah.
I guess.
Show you different perspectives of it.
Okay,
So-
so I'll ask the question first to you, and then
Mhm.
Joe can.
Hmm.
Sure.
Okay. So how did you begin your musical journey and experience the grime genre?
Well, personally, I think our musical journey definitely started in terms of rap and
Yeah.
grime. I'd starting off with rap. I'd say when I was quite a young guy, maybe when I remember my dad used to always pick me up and like take me out, and he'd have this Eminem CD,
Right.
and it was literally all of these like greatest hits, and he used to play it in the car, like sitting there proper jam to it and everything. I think that's the first time I really experienced a proper sort of proper rap like Eminem. He was my favourite artist at the time. He still is one of my favourite artists. Fallen off a bit recently, but yeah. And I
He's getting on
remember,
with it, isn't he?
yeah, he is.
Was
He's
that at the time though where you liked the songs he did, but didn't really understand what
Yeah.
the songs were about?
I think that's what it was. I think it was more of the case of my dad was listening to it, so I thought, oh, this is cool. I've got to listen to it. I don't think it was till I got a little bit older
Did you realise what he's on about?
what he was on about, but I think I enjoyed his lyrics more then.
Yeah.
Because he's a very what that people don't get about Eminem is he's got great flow. Well, older Eminem
Yeah.
anyway,
Definitely.
great flow and everything, but he's a very good lyricist.
Absolutely brilliant. I've been listening to one of his hits, "Lose Yourself," recently, and it's spot
But
on.
it's incredible.
It's
There's
his
actually-
backstory.
Yeah, it's it basically right. There's two
There's
versions.
eight-
There's actually
eight
two
bars.
versions of Lose Yourself. I only found this out like about a month ago. So
Right.
you have the version that everyone knows, Lose Yourself. That's based around 8 Mile, the film 8
Yeah.
Mile, which Eminem made. But he had an original version, which was
Yeah.
on, I can't remember the EP, but it was on one of his EPs. And it was actually about himself. And I personally prefer that version. If anyone who's listening goes on YouTube and just types in Lose Yourself original version or the album's version, it's literally just more about himself. He had to alter it to fit Lose Yourself. 8 Mile had to fit 8 Mile. So I personally prefer that version. That's my
Right.
person. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think
I do think though that Eminem wouldn't have become who he is today if he didn't have the upbringing he had, because he didn't have an upbringing. In particular, he didn't really have a good upbringing.
no, he didn't.
His dad
He
left.
yeah, his
He
mum
was-
his
He
mum
got
did
kicked out of
drugs.
school
Um,
many times.
I think she overdosed at some points. He overdosed. He had a period where I think it was like 7 years where he left the scene completely because he
Yeah.
had an overdose and he didn't come back, and then all of a sudden he came back. I can't remember the song. Was it? Remember "Love the Way You Lie" being a very big song when he came back, but it was like all those Spacebound, all those kind of songs.
That was an Eminem
Remember
song.
Stan being
Yeah.
quite a big one, because that's another story about his past.
I think that's his second most listened to. "Lose Yourself" being number one. Stan is the
Yeah.
second. So very, very good lyrical tracks.
And of course, I mean, he considers himself a god of rap.
Well,
And
I'm
I
in
think,
agreement.
God.
I don't know a lot of people who can doubt him, because, like I say, the Rap God song he
that's
did,
incredible.
it's incredible how he did that.
Mm.
Because one, his breathing must be insane for him to be able to rap that quickly
Yeah.
for about a
That's
minute
true,
straight
that's
and
true.
then take a breath. But I believe that if he hadn't had that upbringing, we wouldn't have
with you.
that music.
Well, I'm in total agreement with you. I think Eminem is definitely a pioneer of rap definitely in the 2000s.
He showed that white people can rap. Like before
Oh,
that,
yeah.
any white guy who'd come onto the stage would get simply laughed at. Like the only other white rapper I can remember before Eminem was what's his name? Vanilla Ice. So let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Go from Vanilla Ice
Go on.
to
Eminem.
Yeah,
It's quite a
big
big
difference. Well,
It's rap kind of grime. It's just
So,
the roots of where it's
to
come
be
from.
fair,
I mean, there is a
rapping-
connection between
Grime wouldn't be here if it wasn't for rap.
rap.
Rap is the reason any other kind of form of anything is here.
I mean,
So
I see where Joe you're coming from.
Rap is
Rap.
and
It
and-
envelops like off the top of my head. I can think of 5 different subgenres, or sorry, 4. So you have rap, hip hop, trap, grime, grunge, all of
Yeah.
that sort of, and it's all because of rap.
exactly.
Like,
But yeah, if I can
Yeah.
actually, so I was actually gonna say just keep talking. So like, I listened to Eminem and all that, and I
Yeah.
remember one day I was just I was on the music channel just listening, and I hear these guys, JME, Wiley, and Skepta on this song, and I've never heard of them before. I can't remember the name of the track now. What was it? I think it's called "Can You Hear Me?" More reggae or something like that. It was a bit, not even reggae. It was like kind of a bit more like house, kind of like with rap over it. And I was like, this is very different. So I saw this JME guy, and I literally YouTubed him, and then I just started listening to a few of his songs, and then that's when I heard my very first grime song, and I was like, wow, it's so different, and the flow is just incredible, and you're just like blown away by it. So
Wow.
it's pretty incredible.
It mainly started when I was in around secondary school, when the grime scene came. Before, of course, I knew about hip hop before I knew about grime, but I did music in the BTEC years, around year 10 to year 11. Usually, when we have a break from performing our just regular generic covers of our favourite bands, we'd sometimes go a bit off topic and talk about like the music of the present, and of course, grime was mostly on that subject. At first, I didn't really think much about it, so I thought it was just a British version of like the Brits' take on hip hop. But the more I listened to these sort of grime artists' music, like artists like Wiley or Stormzy, I sort of see that their style were sort of presenting itself through this so it was basically more than what I asked for,
right.
and I could see why it was so popular. It was different. It wasn't just
It's a little
the
bit
regular
different.
90 BPM beats
Yeah.
with sampled 70s music. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the sort of like we mentioned, the sort of house and garage subgenres, but
Okay.
instead with sort of these rappers talking. Yeah.
So I think that leads well into the next question. If you could sum up the grime genre, how would you describe it, and what would you say to aspiring grime musicians?
Like I said, I think it's very aggressive.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
flow has to be pretty incredible. But
Very
also what I
fast.
would say is, people say grime flow has to be fast. A lot of it is, but you have some artists who there's artists who have their own style. I
Yeah.
think what people think grime is just a bunch of idiots going over track like, yeah, I'm the best, like just going like full flow.
That's
definitely-
definitely that's like not really.
No, like there are people who can do that and they do it well, but there's some people who can slow it down. So like there's one rapper called President T, and he goes very slow on a track. So like he goes like da 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 dun 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 da 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 dun da 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 dun, but it's still that speed. It's still like 1, 2, 3, 4 that grime speed, but he kind of raps a bit slower, so you can hear it. And then so like as I've talked to you about as well, you have people like Gets, who
Oh yeah, you mentioned Gets.
he's one of those, right? So like grime at first, like I said, was all about flow, but then you have people like Gets who really brought wordplay and stuff into grime. So wordplay, you'd think something more about hip hop, so it's a slower beat. You have a better chance of making wordplay out of that. But people like Gets, Kano, are very good. They were the first people who really brought punchlines and wordplay into grime, which I think is incredible. And I think also it's the speed of the beat. So like, if you ask most grime artists about explain grime, they'd say 140 BPM, because that's the speed
I
Grime
mean, that's-
usually is.
That's quite fast, really.
it's-
if you
it's-
think about it, compared to my 120 is the if you like the default
Yeah.
of BPM.
Yeah.
140 is just that bit faster. You
Oh.
gotta get the words out a
Mm.
bit quicker
Yeah.
in the bar or whatever it is.
Also saying about, you said about tips I'd give for aspiring grime artists, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
Well,
I'd say the best thing is find your own style. It's like anything. Any kind of music genre, you have to find your own style, don't you? Like, the best way you're gonna have people listen to you is if you sound different. If you sound the same as every other grime artist, you're probably not gonna make it unless you're flowing better than they are and you're doing what they are doing better than they are. So the best way of doing that is being different. Hence why you have people like I said, President T with that different flow. People listen to him because of that. People like Get's wordplay in grime. People listen to that because it's different.
And if we go over to Joe now, what would you say to aspiring grime musicians, or the genre
Like
that
Anthony mentioned,
yeah.
Present your own original style, but
Yeah.
but also you can't just immediately pick up grime or any other genre. You have
What
to
was he saying?
learn and sort of inspire from others,
Yeah.
while still trying to create your own piece or records off of it. That's what made grime artists and even rappers so popular. They got an instrumental or got a sort of impression off of someone and sort of inspired from them, but use their own original style, whether it be like different wordplay, different beats, different way of speaking or rapping in a way like fast or slow.
Okay, so obviously us three, so me, Anthony, you, Joe, we're in a band called Pace and the Men.
Yeah, we still are.
We're still in a band. We're
Yeah.
doing some gigs in
It's
a
a
few
slow
weeks.
process, but we're starting to learn a bit more about what goes into.
What effort you have to put into being. In fact, we've got practice
Yeah.
today, a bit later. How would you experience of being in the band that we're in? I mean, I asked Mr. Field last week the same question because he's in two punk bands,
Yeah.
and last week's focus was punk. But obviously, we're in a rap band with elements of grime, more sort of instrumentation with, instead of having electronic music with as the background beat.
We
use
actually
real
used
instruments.
original, not just samples you get from sort of
On the internet or
on the
downloaded.
internet or from old records. We actually sculpted our own sort of instrumentals,
Yeah.
whether it be from the top of our heads or some sort of
I'm not sure I think we have a Facebook page, don't we? So if you
I think it's definitely going to be something we look more into the further we go into our career as a band. But like you said, I think from what we learn from being in the band together, what I've learned anyway is just that different sound, like you said, that live sound, which I really enjoy personally. Like I said, I enjoy rapping to beats and to grime beats or hip hop beats, but I don't think sometimes you can't beat that original sound, that live sound. It sounds so good live. It's a different experience, isn't it? Like I was listening to the punk punk.
podcast.
Why can I not say that? Punk podcast the other day.
Try saying
No, we all
that.
can't say it. No,
It's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
Punk podcast.
Try saying it 3 times.
Punk podcast.
Amazing.
Podcast.
No, but, I'm not
Sorry
sure
about
what we
that. Oh, so you was listening to the punk podcast?
Yeah, and
last
then it was
week.
like, I can't remember. I'm lost the show anymore.
Right.
No.
Go on, then.
Let me think.
So you was listening to the punk podcast.
Yeah, it was something before that. What was I saying before that?
It was about
Listening to our music on
listening
on
to
music.
our music and
On
creating
music.
our own music, like rapping to beats.
I can't remember. I've actually lost the thought now. But no. I think
Okay, no worries.
Man.
So,
Yeah.
from your like band's perspective, I mean, it must be quite. Is it only that you three in the band?
Yeah, only us
'Cause it
three.
must be.
Well, saying that, there is a guy called Ollie.
Ollie.
He's the guitar. He stands in as guitarist on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I was going to say. I mean, I
music.
know Joe. You play bass
Yes.
because in BTEC Music,
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
in groups before where you
And,
play bass. I know you play piano, Ben. Anthony, do you?
I just rap.
I'm on drums, actually.
I wish I had more musical talents, to be honest.
Well, I mean,
you're
rapping
focusing on,
takes a
the
lot
drum
of skill.
machine.
Yeah, but hypothetically, I think one day I do want to maybe learn guitar or something because.
I've figured out a problem here, though.
What's the problem?
You rap, but you can't say punk podcast.
No, leave me alone.
Without getting your
No. I've got
Charlie.
mate. Right, leave me alone.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm ill. I've got the flu. Just leave me alone.
All right, I think we should move on to the next
Yeah.
question. Is there anyone in the music industry in the present time that inspires you? And in reverse to that, are there any older, perhaps late musicians that inspire you as well, both of you?
Well,
Anthony, Joe.
Well, like I said, I think my main influence when I was younger was Eminem. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's one of those, especially like because I came up from a poor home as well. I can really relate to his story. Not everything, of course. Like my life hasn't been as bad as his. I don't think a lot of people have had a life like his.
Oh no.
But like that, I feel for that man.
He's
But just like Charlie said,
he's
if it wasn't for the experience he had, he wouldn't have had the content to write. So like, I know it's a bit of track, but it kind of makes sense. I went to this music thing.
a festival.
Cool. No, it was a place where I learned, how to improve my lyrics and stuff. It was called Raw Roads, and there was this guy there. Yeah, a workshop. And there was this guy there named Jesse, or his rapping name was Lean. He was an incredible freestyler. And what he said to me was, he said, you're a good rapper. And he said, you're going to improve over time because what's going to happen is you're going to experience more in life. And in the terms of the way I write about my experiences, just like Eminem. And the more he's experienced, the more he's got to write about. Like he only made it when he was like, I think early 20s, mid 20s ish, which is in a sense old-ish for a rapper. You see a lot of them nowadays. They're like 16 and they're getting loads of views.
Well,
You know what I mean? And it's like he made it very late because he obviously Dr. Dre found him.
Yeah.
No one was signing him because he was a white rapper.
That's just discrimination.
Yeah, he's a white rapper, and just because he was white, he was seen as a disgrace. But Dre heard him, didn't know he was white when he first heard him. Had his tape on, and he was just like, "Oh, I like this guy." Get him into the studio. He met him. He was a white guy. He still didn't care because he knew how incredible he was.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that discrimination really brings down the community in terms of rap and any genre. Really, it really shouldn't matter who the person is. It's the talent that goes with it.
I think that's something that is looked on too much nowadays. Though I think because of this, you got this like social media and like music videos. I think people look at your image nowadays, which I don't think's fair, because you have these people who have incredible voices. So like even I know it's like even you have the X Factor when you have these people who have great voices, but because they don't have the image to be a star, they don't make it in the music industry, which is appalling, really.
See,
it's quite.
I think one to look at that about is, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who thought this, but the first time I ever listened to a song by the Rag and Bone Man, I thought he was going to be quite slim, possibly coloured, and he is a huge white bloke. And it's amazing how he can sing like that.
I think Rag and Bone Man is one of the best examples of people who came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
I haven't heard of him. And then he made that, what was that track called?
He's done
Human.
I'm only human.
Yeah, Human. And I was like, I never heard of him, and then he just comes out with that, and I was like,
you never heard of him, and suddenly he's in the top 3. Like, he wasn't even going into the top 40. He was suddenly top 3 on
Most
the charts.
of his songs have hit the top 10. I don't think Human ever made it to number 1. I think it made it to number 2. But it just shows.
I think Skin made number 1 for a week.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been very long.
Because it's quite a lot of competition.
This year, in 2017, in terms of music, it's only been Ed Sheeran, people like that in the
he
number
makes
1
so
spot.
much money. Like,
oh come on, Ed Sheeran, that's another rapper.
He can rap.
He can rap.
He's one of those, right, where he's a pop artist,
Yeah.
but he can switch it up. I'm trying to think who else can do that. That's what makes him very good, though. But yeah, I think it's very weird, though. It's alright if I talk about Ed Sheeran quickly.
Yeah, sure.
It's very weird because I think it's like you're walking past these people who busk every day. Like Ed Sheeran obviously busked. He used to busk, didn't he? And then he's become famous from it. And then I was in like
That's exactly what we said. That's exactly what Charlie said in episode 1.
And then like I find it weird now because when I was in London and you walk around everywhere and you see everyone like just like doing their stuff on the street and it's just like I'm walking past them. That person could be famous for a while, I know.
Exactly. You could just walk past someone and and 10 months later you see them
But that's the
Yeah.
thing.
number
though,
one. It's amazing.
Mm.
To
Ed
be able to think
Sheeran did
that.
a social experiment where he had all his makeup artists make him look quite dirty, quite rugged, and homeless. And he just went out on the street with an old guitar
Mm.
and busked.
Yeah.
And it was a complete social experiment
And
to
he was
see
good.
like what people thought of him,
Mm.
because it was his own music. He still sang the same. He still played the same, just without the advantage of all the loop pedals. And it was a social experiment to see how people actually
Mm.
treated people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so Joe, who inspires you
Hmm.
in terms of music? I'll be quite interested to hear.
But on the topic of grime, some artists I really recommend. They're sort of underground sort of musicians. I really recommend you check out the work of Novelist.
Okay. Yeah.
His freestyles are incredible, but in terms of the classics, I do take a lot of inspiration with instrumentals from, of course, Wiley and Dizzy Rascal. But of course, it's good to show appreciation for the
Yeah, definitely.
for the big people, the fathers, the mothers, the people who
Yeah.
moulded
Yeah,
this
it's
sort
like,
of
I
music.
was saying, like, Wiley's known as the godfather of grime because
Right.
he's probably one of the first people. So like, there's a what do you call it? A musical band called, well, not a band, like a group called Boy Better Know, and that literally consists of Skepta, Wiley, JME, Frisco. Yeah, and there's I
Good
think
mix
there's a
of
few
rappers.
others.
They're all brilliant.
They're great. But yeah, I think the great thing about some of the very early grime artists anyway is that they're also great producers as well. They make their own beats. So I'm gonna play a beat like in a bit where it's Wiley's beat, and Wiley's one of the best grime artists there is, and he makes his own beats like most of the time.
I
Skepta,
think wearing my
Skepta-
Rolex is my favourite Wiley.
yeah,
Would you
I know the one you're on about.
Would you consider NWA as a
well,
They're not
Hip-hop.
grime, or would
they're
you
not
say
grime. NWA's a very hip hop, old school
rap
kind
they
of.
as
Yeah.
well?
really inspired the more gritty hip hop scene. Really, since like there is a lot of connection between the rappers and grime artists. Grime artists sort of came from that sort of lower class sort of public
So in terms of inspiration, then you take
So-
inspiration from the big names and
Big
some of
names.
the
Yeah.
people that other
Yeah,
people
you have
listening
the
to.
you have the smaller people as
Yeah.
well. Like they're
Small.
still
They're all
important.
talented.
Like, it's like what the Ollie said in our band to us. He said, when you're making your music, you shouldn't get down if you're not getting thousands and thousands of views,
Exactly. That's
because
a
those
good-
people
yeah.
have people behind them who get that done for them.
Oh, yeah,
as long as you're making,
sponsors
as
and
long
everything.
as you're making your music and you think it's at the highest quality you can, it's fine.
I mean-
Okay, so what was you going to say something, John?
I mean, so once again with the sponsors, I mean, once again Ed Sheeran, he's probably sponsored by some huge guitar company to
Hmm.
play one of their guitars, to
Exactly.
use their ramps, to
Yeah.
use their loop pedals,
Hmm.
and as a minor band, I mean, the nearest place I can think to us here that would consider sponsoring a minor band is probably Hot Salvation Records. And that
Yeah.
would be a
Yeah,
small
definitely.
sponsor.
There
Or
are
like a local recording studio. I think there is one underneath Hot Salvation. I'm not sure if it's still there. But I know a few local bands. We're quite good friends with one of them, Eat Me. They're on YouTube.
Good
It's
name.
quite a good band.
Yeah, it's certainly different, but
yeah.
different names are always good, I think.
Yeah.
I think even mentioning these bands on the podcast sort of it's getting them known a bit more.
I think what it's showing is that the fact we're talking about these different bands on a grime podcast
Sure.
shows that how much grime has been influenced by different forms of music. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Listen to Eat Me.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listening to his podcast, just try and get that a little bit
Yeah.
publicised because I'm sure
I'll try.
the guitarist won't really care if.
No, of course
Because
not.
I mean, it's not copyright, is it? I mean, if anything, I'm
No.
promoting.
So the final question for the interview part of this podcast, is what's next for you? And do you plan to release any other? Do you plan to release any other form of music, such as solo songs or a type of music that isn't grime? Or your main genre?
I think as an individual, I think I'm just gonna look to improve in myself, learn how to be a bit more lyrical. Just learn. I think every rapper improves over time. But yeah, I always look. I think at the moment I'm looking towards more that grime and that fast-paced stuff. But I think it's always good to learn the different tempos and different types of rap because it makes you a bit more versatile as an artist.
Definitely.
But as in our band, I wanted to make as much music as possible, new tunes. But yeah, possibly we're looking to release a demo CD, aren't we, or demo album?
Yeah.
And also, we got the Canterbury event coming up, haven't we? For when
That's
we
gonna
one
be a
track
good one.
record
On the 3rd of December.
I'm definitely going to that.
the ballroom.
Good.
So if you want to go, anyone who's listening, promoting ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Self-promotion, maybe.
that's mostly what we want to do. Just get as much music out as possible and develop as a band.
How about you, Joe?
Well-
In terms of like music, I mean, you're being a bassist. What's your experience?
My experience as a bassist came a long way. 3 years I've been learning it, and
Right,
now
so-
I'm picking up a bit more more instruments really. Guitar. I've been focusing on a bit of rap and.
I mean, for those of you listening, Joe is a absolutely brilliant bassist.
Alright,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Thanks.
absolutely brilliant. Probably.
I mean, all you need to
Thanks,
do
mate.
is look at the muscle on his fingers to know that he's a great bass player.
I'm sorry.
Jesus
I'm sorry. That's a bit harsh. Oh
Oi.
God.
What about my fingers? Is it? I mean,
Why have you done this?
I don't think it's hard. I think it's more of a
Awkward.
compliment.
well, it's
Joe,
a weird thing to say, but it's
You're talking about his fingers.
his fingers. All right, we're talking about grime and
Yeah.
what to do for future. All right. So yeah, I've started hip hop songs, and I'm thinking about in my bass playing. I do some occasionally put on some grime bass on, like quick and fast and aggressive bass with.
I mean, I've seen
Pedals.
you use the bass guitar as
an extension of your body.
well in a way, yes. You from the videos that I've seen, you just go with it.
You really
goes
sort
through
of
it.
like
Yeah.
you're one with the instrument. Like you
Instrument.
you just let it flow, and I think that's what's
Yeah.
good as a musician.
It's
Like
important.
I know even you when you're playing the drums or any instrument.
You
Any
get
instrument you
into
play,
it a bit
you just
more.
get into it. Like even
Yeah.
when I'm rapping, I just sort of like you just got to get in the flow with the beat. Like obviously when you're doing grime, you're a bit more like dun dun. Like you've got proper
But
bobbing and everything. Like,
If you're not connecting with the instrument you're playing, like, there shouldn't be any point in
yeah,
playing
you've
that
got to have
instrument.
emotion behind it. Or if you're just standing there and just playing your guitar, just like this is fun. You know what I mean? Just like blank face, just looking at the crowd like. No one's gonna
I mean-
feel what you're doing if you're proper getting into it, like looking at the crowd, like
I mean,
know
your
what I'm doing.
general image.
Proper
I know you
excitement.
you said about the going back to Joe's fingers, but when I see Joe as a person, I would think probably I'd link that with guitar or bass, and I think your general image sort of represents the instrument that you play. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
I don't know. I think
it's
I
personal.
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really dress like a road man, but I still rap. Not completely, anyway.
So I think that wraps up the interview. Unless you've got anything else you want to add to that, I think. we've
No, I
covered
think
that quite
that's
well.
fine.
So I think now we're going to cover the differences between rap and grime just quickly, and then we can move on to
Okay.
Little Peep, your music festivals, Charlie, and then listen to some music.
Yeah. So
It's going to be a
I
long
think,
podcast.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good
So what in your opinion, or if you like, what are the differences between rap and grime? I mean, to get you started, like rap, for me is more American, while grime came from the British.
Yeah,
British
I
sort of
think
background.
There's quite a few differences. I think the first is the origin. Obviously, hip hop came from America, very American kind of sound. I think the
Yeah.
sound as well. So like, was the start of origins.
It's a very
America, the UK is grime.
Yeah.
I think the second difference definitely the sound. So when we play music in a bit, there's grime's very garagey and very like as we heard, it sounds very almost like Game Boy like. Very, very
from-
different.
yeah. We're going to listen to that song later on.
Yeah. Hip hop's a bit more like boom,
proper raw.
bang and claps, that kind of sounds. Also the tempo, very different. Hip hop,
Right.
what were you gonna say about 90, 100? The average hip hop song. If you're gonna be a bit faster, like I mean, I don't know if you know, Forget About Dre, that instrumental. That's about 120, 130. That's like one of the faster hip hop beats I know. But yeah, and I think that's one of the main things. Also, the flow is very different as well. There's very different flows. Like, I remember there was one video I saw from Stormzy, and he was just going around, I think it was looking at Americans, like, and he was just like, right, I'm going to play you a grime beat, and I want to see if you can, like, rap over it. And a lot of them were really struggling, and they were like, it's really different, and they couldn't really get used to it. And he was like, and then Stormzy rapped on it, which is like, yeah, doing his thing. And then this guy was like, wow, it's so different. I've never heard anything like that before. And he's just like, I was going to come in and like try and do something, but I can't because it doesn't sound like hip hop.
Yeah. So, Joe, what's your take on that?
Well, grime seems a lot more younger in terms of their age.
I agree with you.
Since 1979, when the first ever rap song was released by the Sugar Hill Gang, it blew people away. But for grime to do this sort of same thing, like with like you said, with how even rappers react to it, and like, wow, it's so different. It's that is impressive, I would say.
Definitely.
I just had to add to Joe's point about how it's quite a young sort of art form in a sense. It definitely is. I think it's
still developing, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think
still artists coming
the
out
fact
now.
that it's only about 10 years old, maybe a bit longer, 15 at most.
Yeah.
The fact it's only been out that long, I think it's developed quite a lot. As it has, like, the fact that it's grown this much, like how you're hearing Stormzy and all these guys getting famous off of grime, like, it just doesn't happen. Like, people would laugh at them when they used to be like, yeah, I'm going to make a living off grime one day. This is what I want to do. I want to do music.
And they're doing it.
And they're doing it now, and they're just laughing. They're rolling in the money.
So, I guess this gets onto a bit of a less positive topic about a recent, quite sad death in the music industry. Little Peep.
Yeah.
Little Peep.
Yep.
Yeah. That's quite a sad one.
Yeah,
I came in on Friday, and Adam, who was on 2 episodes ago, seemed quite upset. And he told me that Little Peep had passed away, and he was really one of the pioneers of like emo sort of
emo rap.
Yeah, emo rap.
He was a talented guy, like I said earlier in the podcast. Like, I didn't listen to him when he was alive, which don't know, it's not my kind of style. But whenever someone passes away, I will always give their music a listen to see what they were like.
I suppose it's a fact that maybe whilst the musician is alive, they're not as famous until
I think they're not appreciated, are they?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
I think
like
it's a lot of things.
Tupac.
Like, I think someone who will get more appreciation, Eminem, I think will get more appreciation when he's gone. When his career is finished and he's gone, and if he's dead or whatever, people will appreciate his music more because they're thinking, oh, he's actually gone now, and we can't have any more music
by him
anymore. I think that anyone really. So like Eminem, Kanye, Jay-Z, these guys are not young anymore.
No,
they're getting old, and their music's going to stop one day. And
Eminem's
then people are
already
going to appreciate them
45.
more.
Eminem's 45.
He's old. He's not going to be rapping. I think his album he's going to release is going to be the last piece of work he's going to put together.
His latest album, I think, is called Revival.
Yeah,
and that gives the sense that he might be coming back, but you never know with
I don't see it. I personally think his music is kind of he's not as good as he used to be.
I know it's quite harsh for me to say, but I mean, it's like you're saying now, like, Lil Peep has died.
Yeah,
more people are going to listen to him. Like,
yeah,
I mean, last year, David Bowie died, and the radio didn't stop
I
playing
know what you
his
mean.
songs.
I know what you mean.
I know it's not very nice to say. When George Michael died, didn't stop playing his songs.
Can you remember when Michael Jackson passed?
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
He's an incredible. I'm saying they're incredible musicians, but then there's a term called rinsing a song.
Yeah.
And then they rinse their songs.
For me, it's probably Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. That's probably one for me. That's
yeah.
Like,
Themes
maybe
of Titanic.
after they've died, maybe play one of their songs.
Just in respect, like once on the radio.
In respect, once on the radio.
Yeah, tribute.
Yeah.
You don't have to play Billie Jean 45 times on the radio
I think I remember they did the Michael Jackson thing when he died, and they literally played like every single one of his albums,
non-stop.
Like on like certain days. So like today we're gonna listen to this album. I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I get respect and listening to a bit of their music. Like, right, Michael Jackson passed. Let's just listen to one of his best songs like Billie Jean or something, or Thriller. But don't. There's a thing like. Don't play it constantly. There's people who are still going to listen to it over and on. Michael Jackson's not going to go out the window. People still listen to his music today.
Yeah, Michael Jackson was really successful mean, if you look at the Thriller music
natural
video,
talent.
the choreographer that costs.
Mm.
That video costs more than some films do nowadays.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So let's move on to music
but-
festivals now.
Yeah.
Or
Let's
Joe.
mention
Yeah.
the topic about some other rappers
Okay.
that
Yeah,
have
sure.
been celebrated through history, even though they died like
Tupac.
at least 20 years ago. Tupac and Biggie. These
Yeah,
guys
agree
are.
with you, yeah.
Their music is still being celebrated to this day.
As cliche as it sounds, their spirit lives on.
Exactly.
So should we? We've been putting this off for a few weeks now, haven't we? This
Yeah.
music festivals.
He's been slacking.
I
Glastonbury.
have been slacking.
Glastonbury. So, screen in front of us. Do you want to
Change
jump on
over.
this mic? So
Sorry.
you can-
Yeah.
So we're going to swap mics quickly. I'm going to hand you over to Charlie now. Charlie's in charge of the podcast for the next bit.
Glastonbury Music Festival. Anyone know when it was created?
No.
First year.
I'm gonna guess.
Have a guess. Have a yeah.
I don't know if it's quite new or old. I actually have no idea.
It's relatively old.
So I'm gonna say 1980 something, 70s,
I would
70s.
I'm going to go
1970s.
60s, but I don't know. This
Yeah,
is
okay, I'll take like
It was
1974.
created in 1970.
Oh, dead on.
So-
dead on.
I've got a book in front of me. Those of you who like music festivals, I'd recommend getting it.
Mhm.
It's
it called?
A to Z of Festivals by Rob Dabank. People get that wrong sometimes. A Life of Mud, Music and Mayhem in 26 letters. And it is basically him writing up about every single music festival he's ever been to in alphabetical.
Yeah.
So it's got Coachella, Isle of Wight, Reading, some of the biggest festivals in the world,
I
big
think-
festival names. But then there's the small ones. So if I...
Is Wireless in there?
I think Adam went to Wireless. Wireless is more of a. It's an event, I think, in London,
It's,
isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the
I've heard
Roundhouse
of-
in Camden Town.
Mm.
It's quite big. Though,
I'd love to go to
No,
that one day.
Wireless
Wireless
isn't in there.
Ah, sucks.
I know you went to the BBC Music Awards. We've pretty much spoken about that. every
Yeah.
week. I mean, the big ones at Glastonbury, Reading. I think
Mm.
we'll do Reading next week.
I believe Big Weekend's in here.
So, what do you want to tell us then, Charlie?
Yeah, so he has written quite a lot about how his reaction to Glastonbury was. So I believe it doesn't actually say when he went, but it rained the year he went.
Brilliant. It's always a good start, isn't it,
I
when
know,
it rains?
but
You
we
have to
know
camp
that
it,
we
don't
know
you?
it rained the
yeah.
year he went because the first sentence does describe a man canoeing down a river of mud past a donut stall. Because that is the kind of thing which happens at Glastonbury.
Oh my word.
I've never been, but I've seen lots of photos. My sister's been, she worked there. My dad's been, he worked there. I'm going to try and work there for the 50th anniversary, but that's going to be quite hard to get in on.
You can get me a souvenir, bring back a donut.
Yeah.
Oh
and a canoe that I've mudded down, mudslid.
That's quite specific, like specific.
Yeah, it is very
Yeah.
specific. Yeah, I can't even say that word.
Why would you bring a canoe to Glastonbury just out of interest?
Why not? It's Glastonbury.
To be honest, yeah, it's Glastonbury. I think that, to be honest, the canoe's probably kind of normal to bring. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So, Michael Eavis.
Yep.
Owner of Worthing Farm in Glastonbury. Well, actually it isn't in Glastonbury. It's just outside of Glastonbury. In 1970, he was in hideous debt. Really bad debt.
Right.
And he'd recently been to a music festival called the Bath Blues Festival,
Okay.
which I'm guessing is in Bath, with his girlfriend, and he found it a mind-blowing experience for like the whole flower power
Yeah. that
hippie
sort of
era.
stuff. Right.
Psychedelic.
And he had the great idea, as all people do at one point in their life, to get out of debt. I'm going to throw a music festival, but he had no idea what he was doing. So he contacted the local concert hall near to him and asked how he could get in touch with the Kinks to
A
play
good band. Good, brilliant
to
band.
play at this festival. At that time, he was playing a song called, I don't know if it's a song or a band, called Lola to the Cows. Yeah. But get this, on a
Sure, the cows were
makeshift
very interested.
makeshift turntable.
Brilliant.
On a makeshift turntable.
This guy is bonkers.
He is, but he's probably one of the loveliest blokes you'll ever meet.
Have you met him then?
My sister has, and
that counts.
he always seems to be smiling. Because I mean, I don't know if he was smiling in the photo because he just made £40 million that day,
I think anyone would
think anyone would then.
I'd smile if I made £40 million, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie.
But something people don't realise is he hardly keeps any of the money. This year he was left off with only a couple of million. And I mean, I know I say only, but he gave.
I'll take only a couple of million.
He gives a lot.
Yeah, anyone
He
would.
gives a lot of it to Oxfam, Water Aid.
That's a good Oxfam, brilliant bookstores.
Greenpeace.
No, it's fair play on him. Like, a lot of people just wouldn't, like,
Yeah.
they take the money and just leave, like,
Yeah.
I've worked hard for this,
Yeah.
so it's my money.
I mean,
but-
to be fair, anyone would.
So
Yeah.
we've just gone, well, quite a while ago. It was 40 years on. This book was made in 2009, published in 2009. So
Which, for those of you listening, that's about 8 years ago.
it's not the best I could get, but it's a good book. And in the 40th anniversary, they'd won International Festival of the Year for the 4th year on the trot.
Well,
That's
Glastonbury.
crazy.
Glastonbury won International Festival of the Year 4 years in a row.
I think they're still going in the right direction. Last
Yeah.
year, I remember they invited Jeremy Corbyn up on stage.
Oh
to
dear.
do a speech.
So, unfortunately, in the first year, he never got the Kings.
Right.
They never came in, but they got, I believe that says Mark Bolan instead.
Or Mark Bolan.
He was, and it was one of the most inspiring performances he'd ever seen. So, back to Rob the Bank's experience of it. Right, so he set off with his new girlfriend to Glastonbury in a Citroen 2CV from London to Glastonbury. And
Oh,
for those of you who know, a Citroen 2CV isn't the most reliable car.
No.
Quite lightweight, quite slow,
Small.
very small. Bearing in mind,
So
it's two grown
how much
adults
stuff,
with a tent.
how much stuff was in this little car?
That would have been their tent, all their food.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
All packed inside.
yeah, quite
I
a.
feel bad for the car. I'm surprised it made it.
Feel bad for the car.
And right, so.
Oh, so this book sounds amazing. I've got to get it. I mean, a canoe.
Oh, right. So here's the best part. I
Donuts.
haven't actually read through this whole page yet, but he is ashamed to admit, bearing in mind this was quite far back,
Right, this is all opinion.
he
so-
jumped the fence.
Oh,
Jump the fence.
He jumped the fence
Brilliant.
without a ticket.
without a ticket.
wait,
he
just
got
so
in
he
without
could
a
get.
ticket.
So is this so he could get into Glastonbury?
Yes. A lot of people did it back then, to be honest.
Obviously, they're
I mean,
much.
it's a lot harder to do it nowadays.
I mean, there's
I
security.
mean, it's impossible to do it nowadays. And he parked the 2CV on one of the farmer's many driveways. And his wife, well, his girlfriend, crawled across a field, unaware that they could have just strolled up on a fence, handed over £10 to use someone's ladder to go over the fence. So they crawled underneath the fence and across a field when they could have just paid £10 to use a ladder that someone had set up.
That's amazing.
But once
Oh, my
again,
word.
you can't do it nowadays.
No.
So they ended up staying in a friend's camper because, of course, they snuck in,
Yeah.
and it would have been hard to sneak in with all the stuff they needed. I'm just trying to find some of the main bits because it's quite a long passage. It's about 5
Well,
pages
I
long.
mean, we can come back to this next week.
Yeah.
Charlie. I think we've almost hit the hour mark on this.
Oh, that doesn't matter. We can cut it down. So
Yeah, I
close
think
that up.
I remember when I went to see Stormzy live at a concert once. That was like incredible. Like, it's just like it must have been about 3,000-4,000 of us just standing in this like cramped space.
Yeah.
And we're just like all moving next to each other. I'd never been to anything before,
Claustrophobia.
so considering I'd never been to any kind of music festivals, it was quite an intense first one to go to.
Well,
so I was just going there.
fair enough,
What you realise though, I don't know if it's the same with other artists, but you don't just see the artist there. You have a lot before.
Yeah.
I think that the stuff before Stormzy came out was longer than the actual concert itself.
Right.
So they had like a DJ set, and then another DJ came out, and then some other dude came out. I was like, who's this guy?
So I'm guessing you're like early 20s, correct?
No,
How old are you then?
18.
18, bloody hell.
I know I look a lot older
You
than
do
I
look
am.
a lot older. So
But no,
you're 18.
Yeah,
So I would recommend, if you've never been to a music festival,
yeah.
not this year because they've got a break year for Glastonbury.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Next year, go on the Glastonbury site and
Yeah.
you can apply to work. You can be a litter picker. You can't work on security yet because you have to be 21 to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in a recycling depot. You choose your hours. You have to choose a maximum amount of hours, and you pay for a ticket, do the work, and if you do all the work that you've signed yourself up to, if you have a valid reason not to, like you have food poisoning.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like, oh, I've got a hangover, they won't have that.
I think.
But if you say like you had food poisoning, then they would let you off. But at the end of it, you get a free ticket into Glastonbury because they send you back a cheque.
Wow.
For the money. So you get a free ticket into Glastonbury for working for them. So if you want to go to Glastonbury, I would recommend you do that.
I could tell you a quick story about why I don't really enjoy going to music festivals. Just quickly before we finish up and go into the next section. Maidstone held a event at Moat Park last year called the Big. I think it was the Big Day Out. They had diversity was there.
Wasn't Slaves up there as well? That's when they covered. That's when they covered Shut Down.
I don't know. I think diversity was up there. A Queen tribute band.
Oh God.
Queen tribute band.
Brilliant.
They were brilliant actually. And there was another girl, I can't remember her name. The reason I don't enjoy going to these festivals, or I didn't, well, you know the public toilets that they have.
Oh, don't get me started.
I went in one, and someone had done quite a rather large dump.
Brilliant.
On the floor.
Oh God.
So security came over, went in, and they sorted it out. But that put
That's
me off.
crazy.
On the subject of that, I'm just back in the book again. He describes the poo train, so the toilet trailer, leaving a crowd of people pinching their noses in its wake.
Jeez.
But another reason some people don't like music festivals is
Ben's gone.
so it's in the same section of him at Glastonbury. He says that he came home with one of the best memories he'd ever had, which he didn't really understand because he'd put his body through such a battering in those few days that he was surprised that he could actually remember anything. Because of course, at a festival like Glastonbury, it depends where you go. I mean, if you go and see someone like a rapper, then everyone's just like dancing around. But if you go and see a band like
I don't agree with that.
No, hold on. Just listen, hear me out. If you go and see a band like A Day to Remember, you're gonna come away with at least a bloody nose or a split.
I don't know. Honestly, when I went to see, just saying quickly, I'll be a minute. When I went to see Stormzy, right, some of the songs, when they're very aggressive and fast paced, get quite intense. I'm gonna say this: I went into a mosh pit and I didn't like it.
I think anyone would.
I got stuck in there. I was like, literally, it just opened up, and I was just like, oh no, I'm in this now. This is happening. And literally, it's just like, I remember the Stormzy's song. What was it? I think it was like "Know Me From." It's very heavy and hard, like proper like a rave kind of song. And these people are just like throwing people around. There was a fight and everything. The punches were thrown. I was just out there.
My sister went to Reading. I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to embarrass her somewhat, because I know she's a bit annoyed by this, but she also found it quite hilarious. She was at Reading a couple of years ago, and she typical 18-year-old girl in summer dress, like flower crown at this music festival, and she got caught up in a circle pit and was being battered.
Jeez.
And basically, this huge bloke picked her up, carried her out of the circle pit, put her down, stole her flower crown, and then ran back into this circle pit. So it goes to show how violent it is, but how much fun you can have at places like that. Because it's the fact, this 6'4" huge bloke is now dancing around with my sister's £2.50 flower crown that she brought in the south of France.
It is funny. You do have the people like that.
And I mean, things like Glastonbury. This year, someone had brought a rubber dinghy and was crowd surfing.
Dinghy, great.
Crowd surfing in a rubber dinghy. In a rubber dinghy.
That's on my bucket list. I'm doing that now.
Screw crowd surfing. I want to crowd crowd surf
Wait,
in a rubber dinghy.
Okay, I know it's completely random, but have any of you seen that video of Post Malone trying to crowd surf and they all move out of the way?
Oh,
He's just like, yeah, they all just like move out of the way.
Crowd just parts.
Yeah,
it was kind of like the beginning of School of Rock, where
Yeah.
where Jack Black
Everyone just runs
jumps.
out the way.
Well, I think we will come back. We'll hit on this again next week.
We
come back
will.
to this
I'll
next
come
week.
up to Reading next week.
We'll have Scott Layton on next week doing rock. So
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll try and get some rock-related bands, which were at Reading then.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite amazing to think we've hit the hour mark, and last week's one was not even 40 minutes. So
Well,
Exactly.
doesn't really matter. So,
we're about to
um,
wrap up now, I think, with the songs, and then
yeah, if you want to put
Yeah,
maybe a song on.
I'm gonna start with the instrumental first, and then I'll play the 2 other songs.
All right.
So,
Listen, you hear that sort of
coming through.
80s influence?
Have we this is a very sort of plinky Game Boy sort of style of music.
Yeah, it's one of the first big sort of grime instrumentals which I certainly heard of anyway. By Wiley. But yeah, what do you guys think? So like you
Quite
said,
gamey.
yeah, it's very gamey. A lot of the early stuff was a lot more less structured, very
Was
kind
this
of.
80s?
Oh no, this was
Probably the early 2000s.
yeah, early 2000s. I mean,
it was still quite modern.
it's still quite new, but like they like that old school sound, like I said.
Yeah, it's quite an old school genre, era kind of thing to it.
Yeah.
So, have you got any others? I think we have time for one more, I think.
Well, if we just put one on and let it fade out to the end of the audio to the podcast.
Okay, we'll just go.
Could do that. Okay, so
Bit
this is
newer.
one more song. Now, who's this by?
This one is by JME. This is a lot more modern. As you can kind of tell, it's a lot more fluent, a bit more. I'd say this one is grime, but you can hear it's a bit more trappy.
Yeah.
The noise of it, like that. Dun dun dun
Sort of has that
dun 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 dun. That noise there, it's a bit more trappy.
offbeat timing.
So, I think I just want to thank you two for doing this. It's a lot of fun. A few burns being given out during the duration. So, it's been fun. Thank you very much for coming. So, we'll fade this out. And yes, next week we will have a very similar structure to this week. It'll be episode 4. We'll be looking at rock. We'll have a special interview with a guy called Michael O'Donoghue. He used to be part of a band in the late 70s and early 80s called Grand Prix. We'll also have Scott Layton on as a guest next week. And Charlie, I'm guessing you'll be back as
I
well.
will be back with Reading Festival.
That was a lot of fun.
That was
Quite a lot about that. Yeah.
Quite, you know quite a lot about that.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back next week on the Glassworks Music Podcast with myself, Ben Wallis, Charlie Thorogood. We had Anthony Pace and Joe Himbury on this week. Next week will be Scott Layton and Michael O'Donoghue. Thank you very much
See
for
you then.
listening.
Thanks for listening.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
week. Goodbye.
Bye.